ask people is like super simple. Let's put it right there, just 'cause it'll. But what I like to start with, just for context, is just people's names, and then where you were born and raised, and then I'll ask you a couple questions.
Well, let's see if I can manage to
Yeah.
remember one thing for what. So,
Okay.
So, what would you like?
Oh, just your name, and then where you were born.
My name is Clarence Hawsey. Generally, it's pronounced Hawes by the old timers, but I degenerated to Hawsey. Was born in the front parlor of an Iowa farmhouse in 1934, and I'm rather fond of saying that my mother was had a temporary bedroom set up in the parlor of the farmhouse because she couldn't get up and down the stairs. And I'm fond of telling how the doctor that assisted in the birth dropped me, and when I hit that cold linoleum, I jumped up and started running, and I haven't stopped since.
What type of work did your folks do when you were growing up?
They were farmers at that time. Just prior to that, my father had been an auto mechanic. Then the Depression hit, and about that same time, my mother's father died, and he owned several farms, and he divided it up between all of his children, 5 of them. He had 5 farms actually, and he divided the land up amongst the 5. And my mother got 80 acres. And I think that's about what all the other, each of them got about 80 acres, which is a good sized farm in that period of time. But it was hard to make a living on a farm during those Depression years. And my father went out traveling on the road, doing some sales work and one thing and another. Then the baby started coming along, and the war years gave a boost to the economy, and they were able to at least subsist and keep most of us fairly well fed through the war years. And we had butter because we had cows and we churned our own butter.
What do you remember most about the house and the land you grew up on? Like, what was it like?
Big flat chunk of the earth with fences around it. That's about all it was.
Do you have a barn?
A whole set of farms.
Or a barn?
I can show you those later. We've got pictures. You were kind of looking at them a little bit, and I can explain that to you later if you want.
When did you get to spend any time with your grandparents when you were growing up?
Yes, my maternal grandmother was still alive, although both my grandfathers had died before I was born. But my maternal grandmother lived about a mile away from our farmhouse, and my father's mother lived about, I think it's about 40 miles away in a city close to where my father was born. That's kind of a long story too. My paternal grandfather was the chief of police in Fairmont, Minnesota. And at the age of about 42, I think it was, one night he had rather a struggle subduing a drunken bum and getting him locked up. And after he managed to get get that job done, he went back to the office and sat down and was talking with his one of his police officers, and he said, "I don't feel good." And a few minutes later, he dropped dead of a heart attack. That 42-year first heart attack at 42 used to get a lot of them. Now we're a little better at recognizing what's coming, so we get the ambulance right.
Do you have like a favorite dish your mom or your grandma used to cook when you were growing up? Something that you loved?
Honestly, not specifically. Of course, during some of those early years, we went to bed with bread and milk in our stomachs. But chicken we always had at special occasions. We didn't kill chickens to eat all the time. We either sold them, or when they stopped laying eggs, they'd get sold to the packing plant.
Do you remember what your first automobile was?
31 Chevy.
Do you have one that you wish you still own? Did you have a favorite that you kind of wish you held on to?
Well, I wish I had that 31 Chevy. It was one of the few cars that I ever saw that had a spare tire on both front fenders. It was a class act, but didn't take me long as a teenager to get it destroyed.
So, what took you over to Japan? What called you to
Well, the
that world?
Army sent me over there. I got a free transportation to Japan.
Did you fly or take a ship?
Packed into a ship holds like sardines. 4 or 5 bunks high, and that much space between each one. They were fold-up bunks.
How old were you when you were on the ship?
Well, let's see. I'd have to think that one through a little bit. First time would have going to Germany would have been for at just 18. 2 years later, back on ship to the States. Maybe a couple of years here in the States, and then shipboard back over to Japan. And I came back the easy way on board an airplane.
What was your service like in Japan? What were your duties over there?
Well, all my time in the service was as an organizational supply sergeant. And in Japan, I had a beautiful 9-to-5 job with the AFRS, the Armed Forces Radio Service broadcasting station. And that was beautiful. And then to top life off, when they sent me back from Japan, my wife stayed in Japan. I married my wife over there, and they sent me back to Fort Benning, Georgia, to a World War II temporary barracks. And mind you, this was in 1959. And old World War II barracks to a tank company. And tank companies next to ammo companies in the Army get all of the crud. And this was after my 9-to-5 job in Japan. I'm back there in a tank company. They called that part of that camp where we were at Sand Hill, and that's what it was, big sand hill. Hot, sticky, lots of fun.
Do Do you remember the first time you saw your wife?
Uh, well, it was in a noodle shop that that her brother set up for her. Put her in business so she could make a living. And I don't know, things happened pretty fast after that. And so I came back with a wife.
What kind of woman was she? What was she like?
A woman. Very raised as in a traditional Japanese manner. Was in her process of growing up, she was farmed out to a family at the next higher level to teach her all of the household duties that a good wife should have. And that was very, very common in Japan. Always the daughters would, at a fairly early age, in that 16 to 18-year-old range, would go out and work as some kind of a household servant in a family that was at a little higher level in the strata of society in Japan.
Do you have a really vivid memory of her? Something that kind of sticks with you?
I don't know. It was all life, just like everybody else lives. She, for the most part, stayed home, taking care of the house. She was part of her training and growing up was flower arranging, sewing, as well as everything that a Japanese housewife would be required to do.
What stirred you up in life to get into woodworking? Like, what was happening to get into that?
Well, when I first came to Wisconsin, I had a civil service job at the local Air Force base, which wasn't paying me a satisfactory wage, so I worked nights doing everything from nights and weekends, from yard garden care to scrubbing a few floors even, bringing extra money. And that gradually evolved into painting and carpenter work around homes. And just a matter of taking advantage of the opportunities that came along. And of course I grew up straightening nails, driving out nails, straightening them so they could be reused.
How many futons do you figure you've made?
Oh. I'd have to do a lot of math to come up with that one, but there was a period, when did I start making those silly things?
Late 80s, early 90s? Is that right?
Yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood. But probably the first 3 or 4 years, I was making as many as 300 and 400 a year. And they aren't quite as popular anymore, and it's just gradually tapered downhill a little bit, so that now 150 in a year's time is pretty good.
Do you have, after all these years, do you have a favorite tool? Like, Do you have like, you know, one hammer you love, kind of tool?
Well, I think I'd have to disappoint you there. Uh, they are just that. They're tools, and they do the job that they're intended to do.
Awesome. Thanks so much for letting me ask you a bunch of questions. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, that was great.